Here's what we found at the barn. Terry Strong, Terry Degraded, Terry Young, Terry Ancient.
What's happening here?
Jason Bateman, who started off and directed the first 2 episodes, there's a very conscious effort to give the show a different look. We wanted to give the Stephen King thing something that we hadn't seen before. What drew me into this was multiple things. Richard Price's writing, anyone would run and jump to be involved with that. And the subject matter also lended itself to a style of filming that was unique and allowed me to work within a procedural element that this show has, but also a supernatural element. It's of different genres and different styles. For filmmakers, that's what you live for, the ability to sort of not repeat yourself.
How about sending Holly Gibney?
Holly Gibney, yeah, the one and only. As an individual, she's what I'd call unique.
Holly is a complex being. She is a private investigator. She's ever so slightly off to the left, which I really enjoyed playing her just because she's so different to everything. And that stems from her childhood. And because she's so different, I think other people had a difficulty understanding what and who she was. That, for me, was really helpful in creating a full character, full view of who she was, because you don't get to see all of that, but I can inform her as an adult with what you do know and what I know of her as a kid.
When I was 4 years old, my parents took me to see a psychiatrist to be examined. That was what got the ball rolling. And by the time I was 8 years old, I had been tested, studied, written about, and videoed by psychiatrists, behaviorists, neuroscientists, and 6 different kinds of interdisciplinary sociobiologists. And you know what they said? Fuck if I know.
She's a character that's full of insecurities. She spent time in a mental institution when she was younger. She's just, to me, a fascinating character who's trying to find a way to live in the modern world in spite of the fact that she's not really what you'd call tightly wrapped.
It is a pre-existing character in Stephen King's world. In definition, a pretty eccentric, odd person.
This is, in the spirit of the Holly in the book, but it's not the Holly that was in Mr. Mercedes. And Stephen King was very flexible. His own standard was just make sure her name is Holly Gibney.
Sometimes, every once in a while, I like to hear the voice of someone who's on my side.
Her communication skills are very different to others. She finds it difficult to speak openly about the way she's feeling.
It's a character that is very, very important to Ralph's process in that she introduces to him the notion that perhaps there is something here that one might want to consider because all of the explainable stuff, the possible stuff, has basically been discounted by the time she enters.
Holly is the type of person who believes what she believes, has no sense of apology, and has to convert Ralph's lifelong training.
I have no tolerance for the unexplainable.
She's incredibly intelligent, and so it takes her a while to really get to the root of an issue.
Maybe you got something from the first guy.
Can't catch murder. It's not a virus.
But if it was a virus, you'd have to ask yourself, how did the first guy catch it? Who gave it to him? Because that's one hell of a bug.
Holly believes that if the answer to the question is something you weren't prepared for, you still follow that answer, which is the unknown.
What do you want? What'd you just do?
Jack Hoskins, he does what Jack Hoskins does in the book. He's an abrasive personality, somebody that no one likes.
What happened?
When he becomes infected and becomes the Igor, and is also like this bubbling injury back there. And so Jack becomes a slave. The creature has 1,000 ways of sending him to a living hell. The creature has a joystick, but instead of like pumping morphine, it pumps pain.
No! God damn it! Please, please. I'll do anything, just make it stop. Just make it stop.
We sort of drop these breadcrumbs in, and there's this great image of Jack, this sort of wild man, filling up his cart with a generator and lights and all this stuff, and he's amongst all these people shopping, and you have no idea what he's doing. He's just obeying his orders.
Whatever you need me to do.
The creature, in certain transformations, if he thinks of himself as too weak, he needs help. The creature was too weak to do certain things on his own, and he needed a flunky. But he's got the human in him as much as the demonic. So Jack is trapped inside of Jack.
You know, Maitland's wife and daughter, they said that Harry bumped into some nurse, and the guy scratched him.
Yeah?
Stephen has it in the book, in The Outsider, that this legend has been around and shows up in every single culture.
Every culture had a boogeyman. Mesopotamia, the Sumerians, the Egyptians, the Akkadians, every culture had a version of a child eater, child thief. And often in a lot of cultures, that's the way they get their kids to behave. They constantly threaten.
When you were a child, who were you told would come for you if you misbehaved, if you didn't go to sleep?
Jambi.
For me in Cuba, I was told El Cuco would come.
I love exploiting the universality of this creature.
I met an old Russian woman once who called hers Baba Yaga.
The boogeyman.
All the old cultures had the bad habit of turning truth into fairy tales.
My Baba Yaga is your Cuco. So the concept of this entity that everybody thought was a fantasy is real. And if the Sumerians knew about him, who are we in Podunk to block out and say, oh, that's for babies? No.
What we should tell them is, it doesn't matter either way. It takes what it wants.